Welcome to the Kendo and Aido Italia podcast in this English language version. Enjoy listening.
Welcome back to a new episode of the Kendo and Aido Italia podcast. Thank you for joining us again, and of course, enjoy listening. Today, we are immersing ourselves in the incredible life of Miyamoto Musashi. For most of you, he's simply the greatest swordsman who ever lived.
Right.
But when you really dig into the sources we've gathered, what you find is this really complex and contradictory figure. A peerless warrior, sure, but also a brilliant writer, a sculptor, a painter.
He wasn't just a combatant, that's the key. He was a strategic polymath who, and this is not an exaggeration, permanently redefined how martial arts were fought and even thought about.
And that's exactly the mission of this deep dive, isn't it?
Yeah.
We want to move past just the romanticized duels and really focus on the strategy.
Yeah, how that genius was accumulated so quickly. We're tracing the journey of this young man, originally Bennosuke, from his rebellious start in 1596, all the way through the chaos of war and his most famous fights. How did this unconventional kid become the master?
Our sources give us a pretty detailed map. We'll unpack his incredibly difficult origins. We'll analyze how the biggest battle of the era, Sekigahara, really shaped him.
And then we'll break down the almost surgical approach he used to dismantle not just opponents, but entire schools, like the Yoshioka clan.
Right, culminating in that legendary duel with Sasaki Kojirō.
It's a study in psychology and adaptation. To understand the master, you really have to start with the wild child who rejected everything.
Okay, so let's unpack those early years. He was born Bennosuke, 1596, son of Hirata Munasai. And his father was a big deal himself, a celebrated master of the two-sword style.
A very serious figure. But the sources, they paint this really brutal picture of the father-son relationship. It wasn't just that Bennosuke disagreed with his father's technique, he was openly critical of it.
And that criticism, it became violent.
Profoundly so. Munasai felt so threatened by his own son's critical view that he actually started, throwing sharp weapons at him to shut him up.
Wow, so this wasn't training?
No, this was attempted violence. The boy fled, basically in fear for his life, and his uncle, a priest named Arimbo, ended up raising him. I mean, think about that. The greatest swordsman in history starts his journey by rejecting the established technique of his own father.
That disregard for convention, it gets tested almost right away, doesn't it? In a duel at, age 13?
13. The opponent was a man named Arima Ki, a shugyōsha, a kind of wandering professional samurai who was looking to challenge Musashi's father.
So he puts up a public challenge in the town square.
Right, and who accepts? Not the famous master, but a 13-year-old kid on his way back from calligraphy lessons.
And the way he accepts, just defacing the poster with ink, that's the first strategic move right there. It's all disrespect, arrogance, it's pure provocation.
That provocation was the start of the strategy. It immediately put the professional warrior Ki off balance. He wasn't fighting an equal anymore, he was fighting this mocking child.
So the duel is set for the next morning. Everyone's expecting the kid to get taught a lesson.
Of course. But Bennosuke shows up with just a wooden stick, a bukuto. He's facing an experienced samurai with a real sword. And he doesn't use any formal style.
He just rushes him.
Uses pure street fighting tactics, flips Ki to the ground using his own momentum. Ki hits his head, and a few blows later, it's over.
So at 13, he's already proving that he trusts improvisation over doctrine.
And that the psychological game is everything. He beat a professional, not with better technique, but with confusion, surprise, and leveraging that underestimation.
But here's what's interesting. After this brutal fight, the sources say he keeps studying calligraphy and painting for 3 years. How does that fit in with creating a killing machine?
That's the genius of it. His artistic training wasn't a hobby, it was core to his tactical development. Calligraphy demands ruthless focus, precision, and awareness of space.
And painting's all about observation.
Exactly. Seeing the landscape, understanding terrain, light, shadow. These skills are what he'd later use to map battlefields in his head and read an enemy's intentions in a fraction of a second.
So by 1599, he leaves home for good. Bennosuke becomes Miyamoto Musashi, the shugyōsha. His kit is minimal. Worn clothes, sewing kit, ink, and his wooden sword.
And he walks straight into the biggest test Japan had seen in centuries, the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600. For a wandering swordsman, this was the ultimate shot at fame.
But he picked the wrong side.
He picked very poorly. He aligned with the Shinmen clan, fighting for the Toyotomi, who were crushed. It was the most stinging defeat in Japanese history.
So while he's on the losing side, what's his father doing?
That's the crucial contrast. His father, Munisai, fought on the winning side, the Tokugawa side, and he secured a comfortable court position, building his fame through politics.
So Musashi gets this raw, brutal battlefield experience.
The kind few duelists ever see. He becomes what the sources call a demon of the sword by age 17, but his father has the social and political success. That must have just fueled his ambition.
Absolutely. That rivalry with his father becomes his strategic compass, which brings us to 1604. Musashi is 21, and he arrives in Kyoto to challenge the Yoshioka clan.
And the Yoshioka were the establishment, renowned for their artistry, their mastery, and critically, their close ties to the shogun.
So this isn't just a duel. This is Musashi attempting a professional coup.
Precisely. His father had beaten the head of the Yoshioka before, which let Munisai claim the title of best instructor in the country. But Musashi didn't just want to win. He wanted to wipe the school off the map entirely, to completely surpass his father's achievement.
So duel number 1, he targets the master, Seijiro.
Right. Outside Rendaji Temple, Seijiro uses a real blade, Musashi uses his wooden bukuto, and the fight. It lasted just a few seconds.
One hit.
One decisive blow. Knocked Seijiro out cold. He was rushed away, and the shame was so total that he gave up the sword forever and became a Buddhist monk. Musashi just annihilated his career in a moment.
The clan can't let that stand. They're humiliated. So they set up a rematch with the younger brother, Denshichiro.
A very different fighter. Physically robust, used a massive, sharp wooden sword, almost 1.5 meters long. And here is where Musashi deploys a purely psychological weapon.
You arrive late.
Very late. He knew Denshichiro was already boiling over with rage, fighting for his family's honor. He basically weaponized impatience.
But isn't that a huge risk? Being that late is wildly disrespectful. It could have just made him look like a coward.
It's a calculated risk. Musashi understood their culture. He knew their rage would cloud their technique. By the time Denshichiro stepped into that arena, he wasn't thinking about form, he was thinking about revenge. His concentration was gone. Musashi disarmed and killed him quickly.
So the 4th generation of the clan is gone. The fight was won before it started. But they still weren't done.
No, now it was pure revenge. They challenged Madashikiro, Seijiro's young son. But it's not a duel, it's an ambush. 100 armed men.
This forces Musashi to pivot his strategy completely. Lateness won't work against 100 men.
Right. Against an ambush, you need absolute surprise. So instead of arriving late, he accepts, goes alone, and arrives before dawn. He stops being the arrogant duelist and becomes a battlefield commander.
Using those observation skills he'd honed.
Exactly. He spent the night mapping the terrain in his head. He even stopped at a shrine, but chose to rely only on his own skill. And crucially, he used the dark. The 100 assassins, they needed lanterns to see and coordinate.
So he bursts from the shadows, kills the leader, Madashikiro, instantly.
And in that moment, he creates total chaos. The enemy panics. They're leaderless, they're in the dark, and the sources say he moved through them like a ghost.
So he went from defeating a single opponent to taking down an army of 100 men single-handedly.
His genius was evolving exponentially. He didn't just win a fight, he strategically obliterated the Yoshioka's entire legacy.
After that, Musashi's journey continues. He keeps traveling, learning, even masters arts like Kaiari. He founds a school, meets an equal in Musogonoseki. But by 1612, there was one rival left. The ultimate rival.
Sasaki Kojirō, the demon of the West. Kojirō was the established master, famous for defeating opponents without drawing blood, and for his legendary technique, the Tsubamegeshi, the swallow counterattack.
This was the final exam for Musashi's entire methodology.
For sure. The duel was set for April 13th, 1612, on a small island at the hour of the dragon, so between 7 and 9 in the morning, and Musashi's psychological warfare starts hours before the fight.
First, he avoids his patron's boat. Why do that?
It's meticulous planning. He did it to make sure his patron wouldn't get in trouble with the local lord who is backing Kojirō. Ruthless in battle, but very cautious politically.
Then comes the performance, wakes up late, has a huge meal.
And on the boat ride over, he carves his weapon. He takes a spare oar or a log and carves a bukudo specifically to be longer than Kojirō's famous long blade. He neutralized Kojirō's main advantage before he even stepped on the beach.
And he arrives 2 hours late, unkempt, looking like a beggar, while Kojirō is standing there perfectly dressed for his big moment.
Kojiro's pride is shredded. He's furious. He draws his sword and, in a fit of rage, just throws his scabbard into the water.
Which is when Musashi delivers that legendary line.
With a mocking smile, he just says, "You have already lost, Kojirō. A winner would never throw away his sword scabbard." He immediately frames Kojiro's own impulsiveness as defeat.
So Kojirō, acting on pure rage now, attacks. He aims for Musashi's head.
The blow lands, but Musashi's cotton headband absorbs just enough of the force. Both of them strike in that same instant, but only Kojirō falls.
But he wasn't done. Even while falling, Kojirō gets in a low sweep and cuts Musashi's thigh, dangerously close to the femoral artery.
A tiny failure in Musashi's defense, but he counters immediately. He delivers the fatal strike to Kojiro's chest with that custom, oversized wooden sword.
This one duel, it's just a masterclass in his whole method. You can really break it down.
Absolutely. You can synthesize it into 4 key elements. First, the delay and the psychology. He provoked Kojirō into fighting from a place of rage, not skill.
Second, the environment. That early morning light reflecting off the water, it had to have weakened Kojiro's focus at the most crucial moment.
Third, weaponry innovation. He created a custom weapon on the spot to neutralize his opponent's greatest strength.
And finally, and maybe this is the most important part, Kojiro's failure to execute.
Exactly. Driven by that blind rage, Kojirō never even used his signature move, the Tsubame Geishi. Musashi's strategy worked because it forced the master to completely abandon his mastery.
What we've seen then, from that first duel at 13 all the way to this final confrontation, is a genius defined by improvisation. He just systematically destroyed tradition, his father's, the Yoshioka's, Kojiro's, by studying his opponent's minds and adapting ruthlessly.
He completed the most important fight of his Ronin career that day. He went on to write the Book of 5 Rings, to sculpt, to paint. He survived decades of constant combat through sheer strategic innovation and died at 62, leaving behind this immense legacy.
He began his journey by rejecting his father's techniques and ended it by destroying the most established schools of his rivals. So as you reflect on this, consider the question, what does this all suggest about the true source of mastery? Is it perfect adherence to tradition, or is it constant ruthless innovation and having the courage to break every rule you've ever been taught? Thank you for joining us on this episode 2. If you find the topics interesting, please follow us and like us so we can continue our work. Thank you.
Grazie per aver ascoltato il podcast Kendo Iaido Italia. Kendo Iaido Italia, il podcast.